My name is Jim Neuzil. I've been in the Count's Car Club since 1958, but in 1956 I needed a car. I was in high school, I was 16 years old, and I bought this car off a used car lot in stock condition. I drove it for a while, and the original paint was all faded out, so I took it to a body shop across from where I worked on. It was Angel Brothers Body Shop on 5th Street, and had them painted black. And then the Corvettes had come out, and they had that Coupe on the side, and I really liked the looks of that. So Studebaker in 1956 had a President that had a side trim that reversed from what I wanted, and I bought a brand new set of chrome and put it on the car and painted it red on the inside. And that's how I drove it for about a year. And my mother told me not to do anything to the car, so I sneaked across the alley to the body shop and had little things done to it because I was reading all these hot rod magazines and everybody was doing all this stuff. So I got it a lot of the things done to it, like the headlights Frenched and the nose and decked and things like that, and had them primer it in black. And it didn't show up too much. And then I had the door handles taken off, and then my mother knew I was really doing some stuff to it. Then they got kind of neat. They thought it was kind of neat, so I did a little more work on it, and then I repainted it a Tesian red with a gold insert in the side, and that's kind of the way it was when I had it in an accident. Somebody ran into me out at the McDonald's on West Side in 1960, so I took it over to the body shop to get it fixed, and I got to thinking, well, now's the time to do something really radical, so I put the candid quad headlights in it, and they used the original French headlight rings to cap the top of the fender, and then they ran it down and into the original grill. And I bought some grill bars. Had about 6 tubular grill bars that mounted in there, and I got those out of J.C. Whitney, and you could buy them online out of the catalog.
Basically, you know, when we were searching for the car, and people come and go, cars come and go, cars go away, and then all of a sudden somebody brings up, hey, what happened to that car? Where did it go? Well, as a friend of mine, we're flying over by Fairburn. He's got an airplane, and we spotted this car, this field of cars, and we went, what the heck is this all about? So he had his GPS, so we finally localized, you know, where the cars were, and just process elimination, we finally found out who owns the land and got a hold of the guy, and come to find out it's the guy everybody knows. He's painted hundreds of cars in Rapids, especially hot rods. And he informed us he had the car since 1968 out in a field. So we drove out. He watches the people that go out there because he doesn't want people to know where his stuff's at, you know. So as the story goes, we spotted the car, and it's kind of gone from there. We decided to, first off, make it a couch out of it. You know, you've seen the hot rod couches. We were going to do that. And then we brought it into town. We stopped at Motion Unlimited on Highway 79, and we showed this guy, because he's been around. Bill Napoli's been around the hot rod deal forever. And he saw that car, and I think tears would come to his eyes. You know, he thought, oh my gosh, the jewel's been found, you know. And what are you going to do with it? We said, well, we're going to cut it up and make it into a couch. And I thought he was going to die. He said, what? He said, in 6 months I can have that car back into that kind of condition, you know, original condition. But that's how these guys feel about their cars. And so now at our last meeting we brought up, hey, let's redo the car. Let's put it back to its original glory. See? So it gives the club a project. And as Jim, you know, who now turns 80, who was one of the original members of the Count's Car Club, oh, he's thrilled. You know, he'd like to see his car back. So this is what you see out there, you guys, is this car after sitting over 50 years in a field. And really, to me, what is amazing is the car is in really pretty darn good condition. Believe it or not, it doesn't look like it. But when you consider that area and the hail that goes through, the car does not have one hail dent, and it still has the rear glass in it. in the back window, and it's clear. It just amazes me what could be done. And of course, the fun stuff is the upholstery and finding beer cans in there, etc., you know, that have been in that car for 50, 60 years, you know, and parts. So it's going to be a real joy to see if we can't get this back together. Now we're finding people are volunteering parts. You know, we saw some people at the swap meet last week, and I'll donate a hood, I'll donate some doors, and I'll donate my time, I'll donate a garage. Hey, I've got an engine. That's just how this hot rod thing works, you know, keeping these things alive. That's kind of what it's all about. And so I find that once in a while in this particular culture, I call it hot rod culture, is that people, their cars will go away, you know, and those cars they built 50, 60 years ago. And then all of a sudden people get the urge to find them and they'll go out and search them out. It's an interesting hobby, expensive hobby. But you've got a bunch of cronies and people collect parts. You know, they're just a bunch of, you know, hoarders. And they hoard parts, hot rod parts. So you go to these swap meets, you take stuff to sell, but you always bring stuff home. You know, it's just part of the culture, you know. Supporting your local hot rod guy, but it's just a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah. My brother in 1963 decided to start doing some more work on the car. He did the candid taillights in the back, and then he and I had in 1958 when the Impala came out, they had the scoop in the roof, and I had put a scoop in the roof of this car, so it's still on there. Anyway, he got carried away and started doing, he was going to cut the top off and make a bubble top on it and stuff like that, but he ran out of money and stuff like that. He got married also, and he just let the car set, and finally he decided that we had an old clubhouse out on the east side of town, and it was sitting there and nobody was doing anything with it. So he said that he told Leo Sogge that he could just take the car out to his place if he wanted it, and he could have it. So it ended up out there for the last 55 years on his lot, where he stored a bunch of little cars, and that's in Fairburn. And finally, these guys had heard that it was out there, so they went out, got a permission to go out and look at it, and they thought, well, maybe we should bring it back and try to do something with it. So that's the way we got it, and I'm pretty glad to see it again. I hadn't seen it for all those years, and I'd sure like to see it get restored again like it was. I've been a car nut ever since I was 16 years old, so this was my first major project, and it was one of the best looking cars, custom cars in Rapid City for several years. So when I sold it, I had too many other things on my plate, so I got rid of it. And that's.
What'd you build next then?
My next, I had a '57 Chevy, and then I had another '57 Chevy, and I started getting into later model stuff. And then I ended up, my first street rod was a '32 Chevy two-door sedan that I had and drove it all over the country. And then I had a '36 Ford pickup that after I sold the '32 Chevy, that went to Canada, and then the pickup I drove for several years, and I changed it from a stock engine to a 327 Chevy in it, and an automatic, and repainted it a couple times, and then I ended up selling that to a guy down in the eastern part of the state. And then I started building my 38 Chevy sedan delivery, which I had for 10 years, and that was featured in Street Rider magazine. That was a really good car. And then I found this, I got a 40 Studebaker right now that I built 20 years ago, and I've had it ever since. So
that white diamond interior, you know, at that time I was tuck and roll, you know, interior wise, and it had a really cool dash, but now of course that's gone. But as you can see, the floorboards are amazing. The floorboards are absolutely amazing. I mean, most of the time all this stuff will rust out, go away, but here it is in all this pristine condition. I mean, a lot of people would say, and most would say, well, that's a piece of junk, but to a hot rod guy, it's beautiful, and it can be redone. And even look at most of this is not even rust, it's just paint that's coming off the car, So it's just amazing how the difference of how they build them now and how they build them then, It's just a whole different world. But had the white walls, this is amazing too. It has the original white wall on it at the time. And of course the tires have kind of faded away, but the hood had some custom work to it also. The car, which really was sitting for 50 plus years, I said a lot of people think this is junk, but I said to a car guy, this is absolutely incredible, especially with the hail that we get through here.
There was a picture in Hot Rod magazine, and they did a story on the Counts. That was in 1962. There was just a picture of it, and they just said it was my car, and it wasn't featured, but it was in that article. So that was the first time I got national publication with it in.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat to see it again after all these years, and I think that most everything is here. So I think that it could possibly be redone, even though it's set outside all that years. The hail never got it so bad. So neat thing about the Counts, we got a lot of contacts that would probably help us do a lot of things and donate a lot of stuff. And I think if we did it right, we could probably do it for probably $10,000. You just paint alone for that colors would be kind of expensive.
You remember what you paid for your first paint job on that, Jim?
No, I don't. It wasn't much.
Under $1,000 probably.
Oh yeah, you could get a paint job, just a single stage paint job for probably $250 back in those days. Now you can't buy a plant of paint for that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That's the cost of hot rodding is just gone ridiculous.
Well, yeah, it's not that's why you don't see many painted hot rods anymore. They're all primered, and that's it. That's where they put it and stop.
Yeah.
Too much. It costs more for the $10,000 for a decent paint job, and if it custom paint job.
I'm Skip Abel. I've been in the club for 32 years now. The plan for this car, initially when Chris and Lynn and the guys found it, was to do something like we have here with this Mercury grill shell. We were going to cut the front end of it off, and we're going to cut the back end of it off. We're going to make a couch out of the back and a wall hanging out of the front. That was our initial plan. They called me to go out with my trailer and haul it in. Went out there, of course the car was stuck in a line, but I just couldn't believe the condition of it when we first saw it. We had no rear suspension in it. We hooked a chain on it, and I drug it out of the line it was in and got it straight. And then I winched it onto the trailer. We winched it onto my trailer and brought it down here. On the way, we stopped at Motion Unlimited to see Bill Napoli. And Bill walked out of the building and looked at the car, and he'd heard what we planned to do with it. And he said, "Man, I hate you guys. This car should be built." Well, that planted a seed. And we started thinking about it and talking about it as we drove back through town. We kept thinking about, we got a lot of resources in the club. Matter of fact, I finished my last hot rod project this year, and so I have a shop pretty much available to work on the car if we need to. A lot of guys in the club have resources. We have parts laying around, and just in casual discussion, we could have the car rolling here pretty fast. Well, and so now that's the plan. We're gonna get it rolling. We're gonna restore it as close as we can to the way it was when Jim had it. Obviously, the rear end has been modified extensively. That's going to be a project. We won't take that back to stock. And then where Dick cut the wheel wells out, apparently to match it up to a GTO he had, I'm not sure, we're going to restore those to original. We'll try to find as many of the original parts for the car as we can. We do have a set of doors for it. We've already located a couple of other coupe bodies that perhaps we can buy that would give us an original dashboard, original set of seats. We have a guy in the club, a couple guys in the club who do upholstery. Many of us do paint. A lot of us do body work. There are many really good mechanics. So the club's got 55, 56 members now. They're active. And I think we have the resources to restore this car and get it on the street. And of course, our focus is to get it on the street pretty soon. We'd like to have it running by the fall of next year at the latest. And so work will begin on it pretty quick. Bill Napoli, I understand, has offered to store it for us in Motion Unlimited Museum until as we work on it, we can pull it out and put it back in. So that would be a boon over the winter. I had planned on basically doing everything in my shop in the spring. When I come back, I go to Arizona. When I come back from Arizona, I figured I'd get started on it. But it seems like the momentum is already there, and we're going to start moving on it a lot sooner than that. Hopefully get the body off the frame. We'll sandblast everything, the frame, underneath the body, the whole body, get it all in a seal coat of something, some kind of an epoxy, so we protect it from the elements, and then work can begin. It'll need a new firewall, interior completely redone, but like I said, we have those resources. And the club is pretty actively involved with the project. Everybody's getting fired up about it, and that's a good thing. We need a project.
They were thinking about cutting the front end off and making a wall hanging out of it, but after a bunch of guys came over and looked at it, they all said that if we did that, they'd kill us. So, yeah, so they know that it's feasibly to fix, able to be fixed. So, and I'd sure like to. It's not my car anymore, but I'd sure like to see it done and be put in a museum someplace as a early custom in Rapid City. And,
What engine was in there, Joe?
well, I had a 6-cylinder in it with dual carbs and stuff, but he put a 265 V8 in it with 3-speed, and so it's set up for a V8. So I think it would be kind of neat to go back to an early Chevy V8 carburetor.
What kind of interior did you have on there, Joe?
Well, the funny thing about it is that Inge Brothers Body Shop had a guy in there that not only did body work, he did upholstery, and he upholstered the whole car in white Naughthide. Did a really neat job in the headliner, and then it had red diamond in the seats, and then I had painted the dash white and had some red scallops on it and stuff like that. And it had at those days, I had those little plastic knobs that were laminated plastic colors. I had red, white, and clear, and that stuff. So all my dash instruments were matched that way. I had enough money to pay for each thing as they did it, so I'm thinking the poster job didn't cost me more than $1,000 back then, and probably less than that. But it had the stock seats and front and back, and they put a red carpet in it and everything. Took the door handles off. You could buy these electric solenoids out of J.C. Whitney that you mounted in the door, and then I had where those holes in the hood are. There's some holes in the side fenders that had Buick portholes in them. 56 Buick portholes. I turned them around backwards so they looked like a scoop. And then in the fenders, I had the button for the doors. I just reached down and pushed that little button, and the door solenoid would kick open, and I put a spring in the door so that it released it out a little way so you could grab a hold of it. And I finally ended up, they got wet, and then they didn't work one time, so I figured out when I took the door panels off, I covered them with a plastic bag or something like that so they didn't get wet. And then they always work, as long as the battery didn't go dead. Well, I'd had stock wheels, and then I had white wall tires, but the white wall tires were painted on there back then. I couldn't afford a set of white walls, so I was kind of constantly changing hubcaps on it. If you look at different pictures in that book I got of the car, I had cones on it for a while, like you got on your car, and then it had spinner hubcaps, and I couldn't ever afford chrome wheels. After my brother got it, he borrowed a set of chrome wheels when he put it in a car show from somebody in town. Bobby Shanks, I think, had them or something like that, and that looked pretty cool. But that was the last time it ever had wheels on it that I know of. So,
Jim, what did you do to the front suspension?
Cut the coils.
Just cut coils?
Yeah, and I had it lowered all the way around. Then I had those Lakes plugs that went down the side. It was so low that I put them up through the rocker panel and ran down the rocker down the side, and that was kind of neat. And then I ran those scavenger pipes out of the underneath of the dual exhaust. The side pipes were Lakes plugs. They were capped off, so that you can look at that in the magazine too.
Was it stock rear end?
No, it had the stock rear end then, because it had the 6-cylinder in. I redid the 6-cylinder a couple times, and then I found a set of dual carbs, and I had somebody in town here, I think it was Blacks, split the manifold, had dual exhaust on it. And let's see, I had push buttons on the inside for the doors too, so there was no door handles on it at all.
Did you beef the engine up at all, Jim?
No, I just had it rebuilt, and I had a lot of accessory chrome. You could buy at that time. You could buy the side plate for a Chevy chromed, and I had a custom valve cover on it.
Oh.
And it was. And I painted the engine compartment gold to match the side of the car, which was at that time was pagan gold, and that was in color. The color on the outside of the car was the closest you could get to candy apple red, which is what I want around here, and nobody could get any of that stuff then. It wasn't a little bit later somebody did it, but that was pretty expensive too. And it was a low buck custom, but it was built over like 10 years or so that I had it, and that I did all that stuff, and that's how I got into the counts. They wanted me in the counts because I had that car.
Well, J.C. Whitney was the place to go for stuff.
Yeah. Actually, they had two places. Warshawski was the other one. They were on the other side of the building. It was the same place, but and I think the prices were the same too. Yeah. They had two catalogs. I don't know why. We had shows out at Bacon Park that I think the counts even put them on. Somewhere on my computer, I got a picture of me standing in front of it out there talking to somebody when I was, 19 years old, or something like that. But we had. Then we started. By that time, the counts had started to doing the indoor car show, and the counts had went to the what was that place downtown?
Auditorium.
Auditorium, yeah. They had an auditorium on 7th and Quincy, yeah. The Dow Fine Arts Center is there now, and we probably had 10 shows there before they took it down. Like in 1970, I think was the last show they did down there.
So did you have this car in the show at one time?
Well,
you still have
Dick, my brother, he repainted it kind of a copper color and white side panel on it, and then he put it in the show. And there was another car in town here that was built by Forrest Cutler, a 59 Impala, and they kind of fought back and forth over which car got one year one guy'd win and the other guy, next year the other guy would win, but everybody did something different every year to the car until Dick decided to get really carried away after we had brought in some custom cars to feature in the car show, and he seen a bubble top, and he got had nightmares about that, and he started to try to make one down at Drag City one time, and it couldn't get enough heat in the building in that room he was using to blow it up big enough, so he never finished the job, and that's when he got discouraged, and that's when he quit on the car. But he'd torn the dash out. He was going to put electric steering in it and all that kind of stuff like all the show cars had, Wow. But I'm glad he didn't do it all.
The fun part of this is the start of it all, right? So this is the sequel. It will continue, and will be like a hot rod show. You watch on TV as they gradually build these hot rods and the story behind them. So this will be a cool story, starting with the car itself and how it's gone through the processes, and it ends up in a field. Then we've got pictures of coming out of. The interesting thing to me was here we're towing this thing out onto Highway 79 on the gravel road, and these people driving by, and you can imagine what they're thinking. My God, look at that. The cool guy, the people into cars would say, look at that, man. A barn find, of some sort coming out of a field. That's the start of it. And that's what the fever I talked about earlier. People have this fever about finding their old stuff. Where's that old car? So this will be a continual process, and we'll film that and show everybody how we're doing and what's going on. And it'll be fun for you guys to see. So stay tuned.